Hello and welcome to Crushing Comics. I'm your host Peter, and this is another haul around the world with a comics order here from the United States. This one got here pretty recently. It was almost 18 pounds and 15 books. So, and I just sliced it open before I turned on the camera. So here's my special periodic huff of American air, and hopefully no spiders. Smells like freedom fries. Okay, so... Ooh, I got look at what I got. Even better than 15 books. I got foam packing pillows from InStockTrades. They've been going heavy on the packing peanuts lately, and maybe my YouTube complaints found their way to their ears, because no packing peanuts in this one, no siree. Okay, so this is my order from the beginning of July, so we're almost caught up to present here, and I'm almost out of the giant wall of new boxes in the room. Now there's just the giant wall of existing comic boxes. So these first three, I don't have a whole lot I can say about. They are DC Superhero Girls novels for Katana, Batgirl, and Harley. I might even have another one in here somewhere. If we do, we'll just fly past it. So these are all by Lisa Yee. So like, go Lisa Yee with your crazy fast writing speed. That's pretty impressive. And these are like chapter books. So what I discovered is in the past couple of months, my daughter can read chapter books. She started being able to do so right before she turned 5. And so I was like, oh crap, I have to totally rethink the kinds of things I'm getting for her 5th birthday, because she doesn't need like little kids step into reading books. She needs like books. Like she's above my head somewhere right now reading the actual unabridged Wizard of Oz. So she's obsessed with DC Superhero Girls, and there's one of these books for each one of the main DC Superhero Girls. So I started picking them up so I can ferret them away and keep her in books. Books really matter to me as a kid. My mother, we did not have a lot of money, not for this kind of nonsense, and she always found a way to keep me in books. She never let me run out of books. I always had a stack at hand, whether that was used book sales or paying full price for books or getting my family to buy me books or going to the library. There were always books. And that is something I will be repeating in my parenting. This is a big old stack. Okay. This is the Punisher Shadow Masters. Collects a bunch of Punisher odds and ends. Punisher Shadow Masters 1 through 4, Punisher War Journal 1 through 3, and 8 and 9, and Punisher 24 through 25. So a little bit of a crossover there. As you can see, it's kind of epic sized, which makes me, I mean, like here's it next to a pretty hunky epic, but still, it's not too far off. And it makes me question why they wouldn't have epicked it, since it's collecting 2 issues of Punisher anyway. And it just seems like the kind of thing that that's going to fall through the cracks, maybe. And I checked, and I don't have the floppies of Shadow Masters. I won an amazing Punisher lot on eBay, and basically like got all of the singles of 90s Punisher, because I was just going to bind it myself. But then, when I see things that involve little miniseries and graphic novels, which he had just as many of as Wolverine, I'm like, gosh darn it. I'm not going to be able to do my binding project the way that I wanted to. So next up is this Epic Collection, Fantastic Four, Epic number 21, the new Fantastic Four. This is super, super famous for being a period where, very briefly, the Fantastic Four in a period of hot 90s characters is Ghost Rider, Wolverine, Spider-Man, and Grey Hulk. This is the end of Walt Simonson's period on the team, and then continuing into, I'm pretty sure, into Tom DeFalco's run. And this is a period of Fantastic Four that I have a lot of affinity for. It's from right around where I started to pick up Fantastic Four comics, even though this is a bit before I actually was buying comics actively, because Fantastic Four were not expensive back issues, so they were really easy for me to be able to pick up. And Walt Simonson is a very highly regarded portion of the team's history, so, and it does end in the Tom DeFalco stuff. So I'm happy to have it. I think I probably have some of this in trades already, but the trades ended with the end of the Walt Simonson, so I don't think it pressed forward to the DeFalco. And we're getting a pretty serious chunk of Fantastic Four going in epics at this point. So, and that's another one where I actually, much like Punisher, went out and bought all of the floppies. So if anybody's looking in New Zealand for a run of Fantastic Four 310 to 416, I'm your man. Okay, these are going to be quick because there are a lot of things I haven't read, mostly. We have 2 Lazarus books by Greg Rucka and Michael Lark, this is Lazarus Volume 5. I haven't read it yet, so I don't know what to tell you about it. And Lazarus Sourcebook Collection, which tells you a lot of the stuff about all the different families, the world map, the history, and it is, man, it is like wall-to-wall text. It is not a comic book. I mean, I'm sure it came out in the comic book floppy format, but yeah, a lot of text. So, this is one of those series that I'm happy to buy in every possible format. I know I'm going to wind up buying it in hardcover later because I'm in love with it, but I want to read it sooner, and I'm not going to buy it in digital and hardcover and floppy. So this one, I kind of bite my tongue and wait for all the digital ones to pass me by, and then I pick it up in floppy. So I'm really, really excited to catch up on Lazarus. I haven't had a new Lazarus for quite some time. 5, I think, had maybe been out for a while, and I was just avoiding it because I was trying to wait for the hardcover. But then when I saw the source book, I was like, no, we're in. More new Youngblood, although this collects Youngblood 7 to 11. We just opened some Youngblood in the last one. I don't know where 1 through 6 are. They're Youngblood Reborn, and I don't have them, I guess. Unless you remember me opening Youngblood Reborn, I don't know. I'm trusting you to tell me these things. It's really important to have a really good database of all the comics you get if you're somebody who buys as much as me. I used to be really religious and keeping them updated on comicbookdb.com, but comicbookdb, when you add a collection, it doesn't automatically add the issues that were in the collection, so then if you're later looking at the single issues to be like, where did issues 1 through 6 get collected? Just because you have their collection doesn't mean you see them in your inventory. So then I tend to like manually add all of the collected issues, and it just turns into a whole big thing. When you've got 15 books in your order and they collect anywhere from 4 to 30 issues each, it's like a whole night. Like, pour yourself a glass of wine, it's gonna be a while. So then I just started keeping a spreadsheet, and yeah. So I would encourage you to start keeping track of things early. There's a lot of these really cool phone apps that you just scan the UPC code and you just get everything all blocked in, but I already built my whole world of relational databases based on the way that they format data on comicbookdb, so I'm just locked into that legacy system. Now, this is Steven Universe Ongoing, Volume 1. We are massive Steven Universe fans in this house. We read the first Steven Universe comics from Kaboom, and I just was not feeling it. Like, they didn't have the voice, and they didn't look like the animation style, which is part of the big charm of Steven Universe. But this, if you've seen Steven Universe, this is the animation style of Steven Universe down. I mean, it's uncannily close to an actual episode. Here's Steven and Connie. And this was actually how I figured out how good of a reader the 5-year-old is, because I was reading it to her, and she's obsessed with Steven Universe, even though she's only allowed to watch it like once a month. And she loves Pearl. And she does a really funny little Pearl voice, and so she asked if she could read all of the Pearl. And I was like, okay, and we'd never read it before. And she read all of the Pearl. She didn't need any help, she just read it. So that was the first time I had seen her read something she had no previous read of me, reading something to like know the words and blow through it. And I was like, wow. So then we read more of them digitally, and then I was like, okay, well, I have to get them for her physically so she can read them on her own. And then also I wound up getting her those superhero books. Here's 2 books that are definitely not for kids. Uber, Volume 5, we've talked about this before. It's Kieran Gillen writing an alternate World War II history where the Nazis had super-powered soldiers, which does not turn out well for the Allied troops. I realized as I was talking about it previously, and I have it on my shelf right here, excuse me, Havoc and Polaris, that I didn't have number 5. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. So I was like, WTF. So I picked up 5, somehow I missed it. Or maybe I didn't, and I just don't have it in the database and it's somewhere else in this room, but I'm pretty sure I never bought it. Finally, a very, very slim, very, very slim Lady Mechanika, the Clockwork Assassin, which seems to collect only 1 issue? I'm a little confused. Oh no, it collects all 3. It's just really slim. Like, really, can we even get that straight on? It's really, really slim. I guess it's just like 3 issues and not a cent more, so 60 pages. I haven't read all those Lady Mechanika books that I picked up in a previous video. This is a indie production from illustrator-writer Joe Benitez, or maybe he's just plotting at this point. And it has heavy, early image vibes for me, and I dig it. and that's why I've been buying it. And it's pretty cheap, $9 for 3 issues, so $3 each, not too different than buying the single issues. We've got a lot more. So, let's keep going. Oh, they put the big honkers in this one. We went from small to large today. I guess the large one's on the bottom of the box. That makes sense. Okay. Dakota North. This, I get a giggle out of this. So, if I were to just show this to you, you might guess perhaps that she was Black Widow, or perhaps Jessica Drew Spider-Woman going incognito, or perhaps even Jessica Jones. But Dakota North is yet another brunette spy, private investigator, mostly private investigator, in the Marvel Universe. She's actually a little bit of a redhead, now that I'm looking through it. And it's just so funny to me because Jessica Jones, when Bendis created her in Alias, there's so many other heroes that she resembles. I mean, there's some possibly apocryphal story that the original pitch was for Jessica Drew Spider-Woman, and they decided because of some of the dark places they were going to take it, that it would be better if it was an original character. And I'm like, why didn't you make it Dakota North? Did anybody even remember who she was? And then ironically, Bendis does use all of these characters in the course of his runs on, pardon me, Alias and Jessica Jones. So this collects her own miniseries from 1984 or 85, and then some various other appearances. Marvel's getting really good at this, where they put out a book that has like a specific miniseries, but then they really carefully chronologically go through the next couple of appearances for that character, so you kind of get like a complete chunk of them in a period. And to do that in a binding project, you would have had to get doubles of like all of those books because maybe you were going to bind them somewhere else. And when I looked at the contents of this Web of Spider-Man Power Pack, Daredevil, Marvel superheroes, I had not gotten all of those books to bind together, so it seemed like it was a better deal to pick this up, which was $30 on day of the release, so so about, you know, only about $15 or $16, rather than try to get them all bound, which at a minimum would cost $25 or $30. So that's where that came from, just doing my job to own every Marvel comic book ever published in continuity before 2015. Speaking of which, this is another one of these big epic collections, go big or go home, with Silver Surfer Thanos Quest. This is volume 6. It covers the issues that are a part of Infinity Gauntlet, without actually collecting Infinity Gauntlet. So it collects Silver Surfer issues 39 through 50, Annual 3, Thanos Quest 1 through 2, and material from Marvel Comics Presents 50. So I own all of this already, but because I'm dedicated to owning the Epic Collections too, I picked it up. I'm actually mildly surprised that they didn't just put Infinity Gauntlet in here. It's like part of his story. It's only 6 dang more issues, but they went the way they're going to go. They put Wolverine Origins in that last Wolverine epic we opened, but they couldn't put Infinity Gauntlet here. But I guess it's not primarily a Silver Surfer story. So you might want to pick this up if you have just a soft cover version of Infinity Gauntlet, which doesn't have a lot of other supporting materials, because this is the supporting materials to that book. It could be called like Infinity Gauntlet B-Sides, but if you have the omnibus, you have all of this already, as I clearly do. Ooh, okay, I have a special affinity for the terrible comic books that are in this. This is Thor Epic Collection, volume 23, and it could be the last Thor Epic Collection. Marvel has not pressed forward with Epic Collections into any of their 1996 or 1998 relaunches, and this collects to the end of Thor's original series numbering with issue 502. It starts on 491, and this was Thor being taken over. I can see this issue in my hand. I own it for sure. Being taken over by Warren Ellis, who was not the hot thing that he is now. He was just off of only a few minor series at the time, including Excalibur, and Mike Deodato, who at the time was hot off an amazing run on Wonder Woman with William Messner Loebs, who never gets the credit that he deserves for that. So I had been all over that Wonder Woman run. I loved Ellis on Excalibur, so this was a really great example of Marvel where I was not buying Thor, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to start buying Thor now. And then I actually wound up really liking Thor and owning a lot of Thor, and he was one of the first characters that I started to complete my collection of when I got past X-Men, because I have an affinity for Thor. And it's all down to these terrible comic books. They're just not great. I don't know that, like, Ellis and Deodato as a team made for good Thor comics. Deodato's style is just bombastic back then. If you've ever read that Wonder Woman run, he's basically drawing Thor and his crazy Thor hair the same way he drew, like, Artemis and Wonder Woman. The pages are just busy, 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 busy. But I love it. Shamelessly. And so I'm happy to have it. This winds up wrapping up, I think, like, just on the... Wow, it has a lot of extras in it, too. Timelines and deleted scenes. That's pretty cool. They really went over and above with this book. Pretty much ends right around Onslaught. And then it's over. The end. And Thor goes into the Pocket Universe for Heroes Reborn, and then comes back with a new series in 1998. Thor's title numbering continues to journey into mystery, which weirdly does not just feature Asgardian stuff. It actually also features Black Widow and Shang-Chi. Those issues have never been comprehensively collected. I have one more, and it, nobody ever thought this was going to really happen. So this is Ant-Man, Giant Man, Marvel Masterworks #3. Here's the thing about this. Let me see, do I have the other ones handy? I do, okay. So here's the thing about this. The first two Ant-Man, Giant Man Masterworks, first of all, they're huge. And they collect basically all of Hank Pym's appearances in Tales to Astonish, as he was also appearing in the Avengers, kind of side by side with this. So it collects from his first appearance in this one-off story in Tales to Astonish #27, and then 35 through 52, and 53 through 69. And that was all that Hank Pym did in Tales to Astonish, so you were kind of like, okay, well, that's the end of that line. But those brains on the Marvel Masterworks board were like, wait, that's not really all there is. There are some significant Hank Pym adventures after that, and there's also Black Goliath, Bill Foster, who replaces Hank Pym as a Goliath, as Hawkeye also did, right? Hawkeye was a Goliath. And also there's Scott Lang as Ant-Man, and which I do believe is what's on the cover there. So people theorized, hey, you know what? There could be a third volume of the Ant-Man, Giant Man Masterworks. It just wouldn't all be Hank Pym related. And sure enough, Hank Pym is not the popular Ant-Man now. It is actually Scott Lang, because that's who they used in the movie. So with the second movie coming out this summer, which I still have not seen, they did a third volume, and it's another really big one. Now, I don't know if there's anywhere really to go with the fourth volume. This collects Invincible Iron Man #44, Marvel Feature 4 through 10, which I think are the Black Goliath. No, I'm wrong. Power Man 24 and 25, which I do believe introduces or at least features Bill Foster. Black Goliath 1 through 5, which is pretty cool. He was a pretty early black superhero to have his own title, of course, aside from Black Panther and Luke Cage. The Champions 11 through 13, and then Marvel Premiere 47 and 48. So that's a lot of really cool stuff, and stuff that we had never had collected in color. So that's always really exciting for me, and I was very, very happy to buy it. I love these like slightly more obscure Masterworks lines. That's what most of this shelf is. Like, I've got my big lines, my X-Men, my Submariner, my Fantastic Four. That's like a really big one for me, because those are super classic. Defenders, Doctor Strange, actually, I guess I do have a lot of big ones, but I have a lot of smaller ones too. Black Panther's only 2 volumes, Captain Marvel is only 6 volumes, Champions is just 1. I go in for those shorter ones because they're Silver Age comics, they're restored beautifully. Iron Fist is only 2. Luke Cage, 2 of the 3 are out currently. Nick Fury's only 3, great Steranko stuff in there. So I tend to really go for those shorter lines. They're easy to just pick up and have really beautifully restored versions of those Silver Age comics. Somebody recently suggested maybe I should do a Masterworks show. The challenge is that those books I've not read, most of the Silver Age stuff. I kind of was just stockpiling, much like the Epic collections, and they take way longer to read than current comics, so it's not like I can just hoover them up the way I do with current comics, and that's why there's no Marvel Masterworks show. Yeah, that was it. All that's left in here are foam pillows and maybe some remnants of that American Air. Thank you so much for hanging out with me as I've gone through this haul around the world, 15 books, including 3, actually 4, for my kid, already an avid comics fan. Gee, I wonder why. So thank you so much for watching Haul Around the World here on Crushing Comics.